Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Today in Seraphon, we're going to talk a little Lord Kroak. Just how tough is he? If, like me, you have been playing a lot of Lord Kroak since the Battle Scroll dropped a few weeks ago, I've been having fun. Okay, Lord Kroak is pretty good now. Extended range on his spell, and the spell's more reliable damage. So it's not gonna kill everything. There are certain armies that still hard counter it. Anything that can deal with like plink mortal wound damage won't care. But he is much better now than he used to be. So today I want to look at just how tough is Kroak, because on the surface he seems extremely resilient. But is that deceptive? Maybe so. So first off, let's look at the base stats here. He's got 18 health on a 4-up save. That's pretty good. That's quite a bit for this model. The thing that makes him really tough is this ward save. A 4-up ward save is not all that common. There are a few instances of it in Age of Sigmar, but it's not real common. A lot of times you'll see the tougher heroes have a 5-up ward. A 4-up ward just means that you're literally going to save half the damage that's coming through your armor save. So we have the 4-up wards, or the 4-up normal save, then we have a 4-up ward save. That ends up making that 18 health on Kroak pretty beefy. So if we're looking at effective health, that's kind of how much damage do you actually need to push into both of those saves to kill Kroak. If we were to look at just the mortal wounds, you got to do 36 mortal wounds. You'll cut that in half with this ward save and do 18 damage, kill Kroak. If we're looking at no rend attacks, you're just doing the basic math here. 72 attacks going into your first save, no rend, 1 damage, will statistically kill Kroak. So half of that will make it through the first save, and then the other half will make it through the ward save. So you've got an effective health of 72. So that's kind of what we're looking at. That's a lot, okay? Especially for, a wizard hero here, 72 effective health is quite a lot. A lot of people can't push 72 damage into something like this. What makes Kroak even more resilient is we have some good passives that we can do for our army. So one of them is the Asterism, Quetzal the Preserver, which subtracts 1 from the Rend characteristics of melee weapons for attacks that target friendly Seraphon units that are wholly within friendly territory. This pairs fairly well with Kroak. If you're not taking the Asterism that gives him another +1 to cast, this one is a good one to help keep him alive. So you're subtracting 1 from the Rend, which just means that it's easier to make those armor saves, that first 4-up save. The other thing we have is All-Out Defense, which gives us another +1 to save rolls in either shooting or combat. So some ways to make that to make Kroak even tougher. If we look at that, his effective health goes up quite a bit more. So you're still susceptible to the mortal wounds. If somebody can do 36 mortal wounds to Kroak, then he's going to die, obviously. But even against something like -2 Rend, you're still looking at 108 effective health. That would be subtracting 1 from the Rend of Quetzal, and then All-Out Defense basically puts you on that 108 effective wounds versus 2 Rend is pretty impressive. So Kroak is extremely tough on his base stats. The problem with him is this Dead for Innumerable Ages. This ability, we'll put that in quotes, that Kroak has on his War Scroll leaves a lot of that damage up to random chance of whether or not Kroak is going to die. So, at the end of any turn, all the damage that you've taken in that turn is added up. You roll 3 dice, and you combine those numbers together. If it's more than 20, or if it's 20 or more, Kroak is destroyed. Otherwise, you heal 18. Healing 18 is crazy. I don't believe there's anything in the game that heals 18, but that high reward of healing 18 comes at a massive cost of this unit being destroyed. So I want to look quickly at what are the chances that Kroak dies. So here's our chart here, Excel file of the damage taken is in the first column. So you can see if you've taken 2 damage, Kroak is very unlikely to die. So what do you need to roll on 3d6 to die? It would have to be an 18. There's only one possible combination of that. That's the third column. Rolling 3 6s. That's a 1 in 216 chance, or a 0.46% chance that you will roll that dice. So you can see it's kind of a bell curve here. As you go through the numbers, you have a higher chance to roll these numbers in the middle, just because of that's how dice work. And as it gets down to the bottom, again, if you've taken 17 damage, there's only one combination to roll 3 on 3d6 dice, so it's the same chances above. But here's where it gets interesting. All of that's cumulative, so your chance to die continues to go up the more damage you've taken, obviously. So if you've taken 3 damage, yeah, you only have a 1% chance of rolling 17 on the dice, but either that or 18 and you die. So it kind of starts adding up. So the more damage you've taken, the more likely it is to die. Hopefully that makes sense as you look at this chart. The problem comes in as you take a mediocre amount of damage. Every point of damage ends up increasing your chances of dying pretty significantly. So if you're looking here at you've taken 6 damage, you only have a 16% chance of dying. But if you take one more, you're up to 25. One more, 37, and it just continues to go up and up. And you see here, instead of being a bell curve, this is more of that hockey stick that you normally see in a chart. So you have a very high percentage chance of dying the further up you go on this chart, the more damage you have taken. So this is where your effective health is kind of blown out the window for Kroak, because if he takes 10 damage, you are likely to die. 62% chance to die. Kind of that sweet spot is 9 damage taken and your 50% chance of dying. So it's a coin flip if you've taken 9 damage. So even though he is extremely tough, the more damage Kroak takes, the more likely he is to die. Now, most games, I'm going to say most games, a lot of people just don't put damage into Kroak unless they can put an overwhelming amount of damage into Kroak. There's almost no reason to plink damage into him. Now, if you can get 5 damage into Kroak each turn, that would be kind of ideal. You make me roll for it. There's a decent chance I'll hit it at some point in the game. Over both turns, there's 10 times I'm going to roll that. I'll end up rolling it 1 time based on statistics. So that's kind of how it would be a good idea to do it. Most games I find Kroak isn't really attacked if the game's going well. There was one instance the other day where I was playing a game and Kroak ends up getting isolated just based on the board state, and usually that's okay. He can hold on to quite a bit on his own. My opponent sends in 6 Rockgut Trolls into Kroak. And I'm in Quetzal, so I'm -1 rend. I do all-out defense, so I am effectively negating all his rend. And those Trolls, I think, did about 9 damage into Kroak. I felt good about that. They... he had all-out attack. I think I can't remember if he had an extra attack or not on those guys, but they did have some buffs on them. Generally, those Trolls do a lot of damage. Kroak only taking 9 feels good. He's only half health. Unfortunately, I did roll an 11 or higher, and Kroak died. So in those instances, it feels like he doesn't have a whole lot of health because he dies after only taking 9 damage. Now, if we look back at our efficiency chart, that is, or the effective health, taking 9 damage is, that's an effective health of 36. So it's not an insignificant amount of damage for somebody to do to him because of that 4-port, but he will die. I want to look at a couple examples here. and we're entering the Thunderdome. What kills Kroak? So one thing that I was worried was going to kill him a lot, because I do face Stormcast a lot, so we're going to look at some Stormcast examples here. And I think these kind of translate into different armies as these kind of hold different roles. I was kind of worried about shooting a lot, because that can hit Kroak and do some damage from range, no risk, and hopefully pop his ability to kill himself. So in this example, I'm doing +1 to save. The asterism doesn't help me here. Against a reinforced unit of Vanguard Longstrikes. And they do get +1 to hit. A variety of ways they can get that. So on average, they'll do about 7 damage through Kroak's armor save and his ward. But that means Kroak has a 26% chance of dying. So essentially a 1 in 4 chance of dying. That's not fun to roll that out, especially if they're doing this in multiple phases or multiple turns. Kroak has a very good chance of dying. If he can put any damage through Kroak with anything else, that number continues to climb. Because remember, as we look at this, he's doing 7 damage. You're doing a 25-26% chance of dying. Just add 1 more pip of damage, or 2 if he gets lucky, and Kroak does not survive that very often. So a 26% chance of death there. Against something like Palladors, which we see a whole lot, extremely fast, extremely versatile. They don't necessarily hit the hardest, but they have a whole lot of attacks. You can negate a lot of their rend, but they do some damage outside of the normal phases with their charging and shooting stuff, so they can get around some of that. Even with all-out defense and the asterism for -1 rend, a reinforced unit of Palladors will coming in with finest hour, although against the javelins probably not necessary. And then all-out attack from a variety of sources Stormcast has, but easily enough just all-out attack. And they're going to do 9 damage through on average and kill Kroak 50% of the time. Another example would be Prosecutors. Same buffs for Kroak. Reinforced unit of Prosecutors with +1 attacks, blessed weapon, +1 to wound, finest hour, +1 to hit, all-out attack. And then, of course, they got a 3d6 charge flying, so they can pretty much hit Kroak whenever they want to. And they should get, on average, about 10 damage through and a 63% chance of killing Kroak. Something a little bit harder hitting might be the Stormdrake Guard. Reinforced unit with finest hour and all-out attack. And they'll get 11 damage through with a 64% chance of death. So you can see here, when you're looking at the damage that goes through on these units, it doesn't seem that impressive. He seems like he saves a lot of that. But then you look at that chance of death, and all of a sudden you realize, I do need to protect Kroak. Generally, you can't send him out on an island. He'll take some damage, and he will die to some of these units. These aren't abnormal units. These are units that a lot of people have access to something similar, and they will end up killing Kroak. So keep that in mind. Don't just leave him out on an island all by himself. So with all that in mind, I was thinking, what is his actual effective health? And so I did some Excel formulas based on his chances of dying and what that would mean as far as effective health. His true effective health is not 108, like we calculated earlier. I asked Deep Thought here, and his true effective health, based on all the chances he can die, is 27. For whatever that's worth. All right, guys. Let me know your Kroak stories. Has he died on you? Has he healed 18 and kept himself alive for an entire game? Let me know below in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time.